Each day, John Michael Chambers delivers his JMC War Reports, keeping you informed, empowered, and connected. These reports are brief and range typically from 3 to 7 minutes, providing updates on this war and just what you need to know as the golden age is upon us. Informative, insightful, and inspiring. Get and stay grounded. Subscribe for free and join JMC for his daily war reports at jmcbroadcasting.com. Our victory is assured, and we shall restore this republic and set humanity on a much-needed course correction. Follow John's daily war reports right here at jmcbroadcasting.com.
All right, July 28th, 2026. Thank you for joining me. My name is John Michael Chambers, and welcome to this special broadcast with Larry Ballard. But before we begin, I've got some important updates and announcements for those that follow our broadcasting here at JMC Broadcasting. Fireside Chats with JMC. I just recorded it yesterday. It will publish Friday, whatever the date is, this coming Friday. You'll want to catch Fireside Chats with JMC. Also, important announcement, 107 and Matt Meck and team, the 107 Summit. If we put it up on the screen, there it is. You can visit stormsummit.us out in Las Vegas, September 10th through 13th. The Fraud Fighter Summit was hugely successful and sold out. I would expect this to be as well. And we are working on streaming it live for those that cannot attend. But you'll want to get out there. You can see the roster on the screen. Quite the lineup. Very important summit, taking on all the issues that are reaching a boiling point in this country, election theft and much more. Stormsummit.us. All right, Patriots. Well, there we go. There he is, 107. I'll be meeting Juan. He's just landed here in Thailand. I'm an hour flight from Bangkok, and I very much look forward to sitting down again with 107 face-to-face for a day and a half and get the downloads from Juan, and we will do our best to get a special broadcast. Since he's in my time zone, it's a little bit easier. We might be able to get me and Juan on camera for a special broadcast. Stay tuned to that. Welcome to Thailand, 107. All right. Patriots, some announcements here. We request your assistance. So I'm making an announcement here called Call to Action JMC Access Hotline. It's more, and I'm going to talk more about that in just a moment. But folks, we are entering the final and most critical phase of this operation. In addition to our current broadcasting schedule at JMC Broadcasting, we're going to be launching beginning September 26th, a monthly program titled The Board of Truth. It's a monthly broadcast where a panel of experts, military and intelligence experts, will review Guardian Daniel R's war reports, and I'll be your host. In addition to this new launch, get ready for a 30-minute morning news broadcast covering the news events of the day, Monday through Friday, news covering events every day in a structured news delivery format, Monday through Friday. This is slated to launch in September 2026 with your host, Julie Donuts, Monday through Friday, 30-minute news report. In addition to this, we shall also launch another structured news format broadcast in November with Christy Allen. You know Christy from Tsunami of Truth. She will be the newscaster Monday through Friday in November. We'll have a morning launch with Julie and an evening launch with Christy Allen. That pretty much completes the delivery system with all the deep dives I do and the news reports. So by year's end of 2026, JMC Broadcasting will launch a monthly medical panel of expert physicians taking on Big Pharma and the deep state medical tyranny as well. And keep your eyes on the Media Center being launched at Gitmo, and continue standing by, as we all are, waiting for the EBS launch at some point, which, contrary to popular podcaster belief, in my humble opinion, isn't happening anytime soon, but is set to be launched in the future. All right. Many of our patriotic and patriot followers are commenting on social media. They're commenting on our social media platforms and making various attempts to reach out to us. So we're going to make this easy and streamline it. We now have a dedicated email address to do so. This email is best suited for the following submission content. So if you want to refer guests to us that you think would be a good fit on, say, Off World with JMC or any one of our broadcasts, send them to us. Send them to us. If you know whistleblowers that want to come forward and reveal information on a variety of topics, send them to us in confidence. Those referrals will go to the front of the line. You can use this JMC Access Hotline if you have questions you'd like me to ask of our guests, particularly on our panels. Subjects you would like raised, we will consider them. Send us those questions and which show you'd like them addressed on. Also, topics. There's so much going on out there. We cover quite a bit of what really counts. But if there are particular topics, like people have been saying, why haven't you covered the data centers? Right? So if there are topics you would like discussed on our broadcasting, well, let us know what they are. Send us an email. Or any suggestions you may have that we may consider in furthering our mission here at JMC Broadcasting. Now, any trolls or disrespectful comments from anybody will be deleted and you will be blocked. We have no time for games. We're already fighting an enemy. So the lady you see on the screen is Sandy. She'll be accessing these emails on a weekly basis. And it may not be possible for Sandy to acknowledge all the emails received. So we'll do our best to do that. But we have a hotline for you now where you can be sending your comms directly to us. This will be published on our website and in our weekly e-blast that we send out. So we have challenging days that lie ahead as we are not yet out of the woods, but victory is assured and the dawning of the golden age, keyword there is dawning, is upon us. Be wise, use discernment during this period of time. Pray, plan, and prepare, and have faith in God and have faith in his plan, which is in fact unfolding. And so here's the access hotline. It's jmchotline@gmail.com. We'll publish this. There'll be official links and so forth on the homepage of the website coming within the next 10 days. But if you want to jot it down now and you'd like to communicate with us in the fashion I've just outlined for you, there's your email, jmchotline@gmail.com. And last announcement before we bring on Larry Ballard, Sheila Holm. Sheila Holm will be joining us Thursday, July 30th at 8 p.m. Eastern in our private Zoom room for 1 hour just to answer your questions. So get connected. If you're not a premium member, visit jmcbroadcasting.com, click on premium membership, learn what that's about. If it's a fit for you, we look forward to seeing you there. Each month we bring a different power guest in to answer your questions for 1 solid hour. Sheila Holm, thank you very much. We look forward to seeing Sheila on Friday, July 30th, 8 p.m. Eastern. All right, Larry Ballard is an author who believes that God enables those he calls. In 1968, he experienced a near-death event during which he was warned of a time when freedom would be in peril, a time he believes is happening right now. In preparation for delivering what he views as his God-ordained message, Larry studied and continues to history and religion as foundations for understanding world events. He also gained firsthand professional experience across multiple industries, including construction, nuclear energy, real estate, bioengineering, and the medical field. Now, a lot of folks know Larry. This introduction is more formalized for those that are getting to know Larry. His travels throughout the United States and internationally, including Mexico, Canada, Europe, and China, have shaped his perspective on major global developments such as the events of 9/11, international trade policy, border policy, the 2008 financial crisis, universal healthcare, and climate-related narratives. Larry believes these experiences have provided insight into broader financial and geopolitical forces shaping the modern world, including what he describes as efforts to trigger global financial instability. He's going to give us some updates on that right now and what's about to unfold. He also believes America will play a central role in restoring order and ushering in a period of peace, prosperity, and spiritual awakening. His message is one of faith, resilience, and ultimate victory, that good prevails and that hope remains for the future. Visit larryballard.com and become more familiar with his work. And he also has a dedicated page on our website at jmcbroadcasting.com. I absolutely encourage you to visit that if you're not already there. You click on the navigation bar, Restore the Republic. It takes you to an extensive, growing body of work. Each week, a new uh, broadcast is published there. This is a curriculum with PowerPoints and graphics and charts, very in depth education. And this is Restore the Republic at jmcbroadcasting.com. Please welcome back Larry Ballard.
Hey, John, I'm impressed with myself after that.
An
Anyway,
impressive soundbite
back
on
to
the
you.
journey of Larry.
You made me sound
Well,
pretty good. What can I say?
well, you are good, sir. And we have a lot of folks know you of your work from our broadcasting network and from some of the podcasts and broadcasts that you are on as a guest. But a lot of folks are coming aboard every day, new people. And so I took the time to orient them to you. And again, to those folks later on, visit larryballard.com and avail yourself to his book and his material. Larry, I want to get into something in this special broadcast. We have maybe 3 or 4 topics to our viewers that I'd like Larry to unpack for us. Larry has a unique perspective of world events, and boy, we've got world events going on. Things are changing. The Democrat Socialist Communist narrative. You know, they want to put. You've got who do you got there? I forget his name. The communist.
Madami?
You know, no,
What are you thinking of
the
New York?
white-haired guy,
Madami?
the screen, this guy. Hello, we got to fix things. What's his name? The congressman. Anyway, he ran for
I can't.
president.
I
Whatever
can't
his
believe I
name is,
can't
that's how
remember it right
important he
this
is.
second. Bernie
Yeah.
Sanders. Bernie Sanders.
Thank you, thank you. You've got Bernie Sanders and AOC and a lot of others out there that em, em, embrace the Democrat socialist narrative. Well, listen, socialism and communism are kind of one and the same. But you know what? Let's have you break it down, Larry. Democrat, socialist, communist. What is the narrative that is permeating out there concerning that, and how will it backfire?
It's going to result in a red wave in the midterms. They've gotten into the schools, the colleges in particular, and they've forgotten everything about the history of communism, about what it results in. And they're sending you a very simple narrative. We're being treated unfairly. We're being taxed into financial uh, bankruptcy. People are having a difficult time buying anything except the absolute necessities. So they have a real simple solution. We got in trouble because they overtaxed us, right? So listen to this genius
Mhm.
solution. We're going to tax the rich. We're going to solve a problem that was created by taxes with more taxes. How's that sound? Does that make any sense? So let me break that down for you and show you the hidden agenda behind it and how we can expose what they're doing versus the real world solutions that Donald Trump is offering. So they're telling you on the surface, it's real simple. You just tax the rich. And there's 2 ways they're doing it. They can tax your income, or there's an even more sinister plan coming out of California, which we'll discuss in a second. So what they're saying is we we have a narrative that I think people can believe, and that is he who controls the money controls the world, because they have the money to buy the power and influence and all the spheres of influence. So they basically control us. So naively, they're telling us after decades of them holding us in suppression and controlling all the spheres of influence, magically, we're going to get a way to tax them, to reverse the roles on them. It ain't going to happen. But let's say we did. Let's say we got some money out of them. Here's where their narrative starts to fall totally apart. They're saying we're going to take the money from the rich and we're going to do this is what communism does. We're going to give it to the people. Well, now you manage to get some money out of them. You really have to force to get it. And now what you've got to do is you've got to share it with 300 million Americans. What's left is virtually nothing. Now, let's compare that to the narrative that Donald Trump keeps telling us. And then I'm going to expose the real truth behind what they're doing. It's not that simple. But before I get into that, let me go over to California. So now this is what they're doing in California. You want to talk about something that's insane? They want to put on a tax that's analogous to your death tax, where let's say you're a wealthy family and you've got a big corporation, or you've got a huge cattle spread or something, and you die. Basically what they do is they make your heirs pay a death tax. They're doing somewhat similar to that in California, or at least trying to. And what they want to say is we want to impose a one-time 5% tax on all the billionaires in California, and that'll solve all of our financial problems. Well, all you got to do is use some common sense. Billionaires are pretty smart money managers. They don't keep billions of dollars sitting someplace doing nothing. They have it invested. They have it in their corporations. They have it in other investments. And so what it really means is that you're going to drive those people out of California. So they're leaving. They're leaving by the droves. You've got Musk. He's already left and gone to Florida. You've got the founder of Google. He's just announcing he's leaving and going to Florida. And when they go, they're paying billions of dollars in taxes. So there's 15 ultra rich people that they want to take the money from and say, well, that'll fix our problems. But they're leaving. They're not going to stay. And so here's what happens. When they leave, a void is created where you got social services, you've got ambulances and fire and police and all of that. Without their money, that creates a hardship on the everyday average American citizen that has to pick up that void, and those services go down. And then the next thing you have to do is you have to raise taxes. So the whole solution is always raise taxes to fix the problem that was created by raising taxes. It doesn't work. So now let's jump over, and you stop me anytime you want, John, and chime in. This is the contrast to what Trump is doing. But first I need to tell you what's really behind what they want to do. This is what they hope to sneak through as they promote all these Democrat, I call them communists. They want to defund the police. They want to give you free health care. They want to give you free education. They want to impose rent freezes. So as we have inflation, the landlords who own the properties are going to be put in a situation where they're losing money on their properties. That's going to have a pretty devastating effect, and we've seen it over and over and over again. So every time communism gets in, Kennedy made this announcement years and years ago. He said there's never been a nation that has gone to communism other than through a financial collapse or some kind of catastrophe. And when they go, let's take two models. You got the Bolshevik Revolution. Result was that they took everything away. Remember, they don't want you to own private property. They put everything in the hands of the government. There were food lines. 35 million people died. Then you go to Mao's China. Same thing happened. They put people from the city and put them out on the farms, and they didn't have any equity in it, and they didn't know how to farm, and people starved to death, and 65 million people died. That's what is the result of forcing communism on a nation. So now what's Trump going to do? Let's look at his solutions compared to theirs, and factor in the lies that they're not telling us. So what Trump is saying is, oh, there were other people before him that said it. So let's go back. Let's go to Eisenhower, the general, not the president. And he said, is there any man, any woman, any child that doesn't understand that the central cause of war is lack of economic parity between nations? And that's going to lead us into the conversation after I've kind of answered this question on the currency reset. So basically what Trump is saying, and he said it several times from the podium, and he always gives us cues. He says we have to have economic parity, all currencies. So if we look back in history, which is what I do, you look back and you say every time there's a collapse, there's a pattern. They drive us into debt through taxation. They collapse it when the Ponzi scheme falls. Then they revalue gold, and they tell us they're going to fix everything, and then eventually they pull gold out, and we're back on the same fiat system, and we're back in the same cycle. Trump is doing something different. He's going to grow us out. So what is Trump's plan versus their plan? And I think you'll see his will work. So he's laying this foundation to grow America out of debt. And so he's going to create a strategic reserve, and he's going to increase gold to $20,000, Bitcoin to $1 billion. I mean $1 million, and he's going to have XRP as part of that system, and he's going to have a stable coin. And think about a stable coin. Every dollar that's printed, now that'll tie us to the dollar, right? The stable coin will tie to the dollar. What that means is that if you get the stable coin, you have to buy US bonds. And so now that's the cycle that he's putting in to protect us. But on top of that, now what is Trump going to do? He's going to do something they've never been willing to do before because they wanted to repeat the cycle. He's going to grow us out of debt. And so now we look back at history to Carter. And what Carter did is they said, America's getting too strong. What we're going to do is create a new super capitalist communist economy. We're going to take the manufacturing from America and send it over to China, and we're going to grow China, and we're going to create a slow decline of the United States of America. The reverse is being done now. So what's happening? Trump has said, when we were founded, we had one tax, a sales tax. Now we have a progressive tax, and it's based on federal income tax and then a whole layer of other taxes that they put on, and then those taxes got increased, and that's your progressive tax system that has led the American people to the point that they're up to their noses in debt on credit cards. They're losing their houses in some instances. That's the situation that they have created. Now what's Trump going to do? He's saying, well, I've got $18 trillion committed to the US economy because we are going to do what we did before. What made us great in the first place was following our bankruptcy, following the Civil War, we put a 50% tariff on England, and that made us great. It gave us the money to innovate the industrial technological revolution, and we shared that technology with the world. We're going to do it on steroids because now in the first term, Trump came in and got us the Chevron decision from the Supreme Court, which gives us access to 5,915 patents. And what does he say about them? They're real, they exist, they're ready to go. All we got to do is scale them up. You think the skunk works set back and didn't take advantage of those? They're there. They're real. So what he's doing, he's got $18 trillion committed, and then he took the tariffs out of from under an executive order and codified it into law. And with that, bam, they said, you know what, now we're going to not just say we're going to give you the money, we're giving you the money. And then what just happened as a result of what's happening in Iran right now, it's really interesting. Trump was saying, finally, this has gone on a little longer than we thought, and we're going to have to keep troops there to keep the strait open. And so I'm considering that we're going to charge you a toll. And guess what happened? The Arab nations came back and said, we got a better idea. Remember that little deal that we did that's kind of fallen apart called the petro deal, where your money, the oil money flowed through the US and we both benefited? Well, we think that we see that you are reversing what happened under Carter, and the world is going to now bring their money to the United States. And as China loses manufacturing, America is going to gain manufacturing. And you've already got commitments for 18 trillion. How about we do this? We believe in your technological prowess. We believe in America. We believe that America is going to be the first nation to restore itself and pull itself out of this economic crisis. And only America can basically bring financial security back to the world. So what we propose is something quite different. And this is happening behind the scenes. We propose that you allow us to give you a few billion or trillion, and we invest in your tech and in emerging technologies and all the things that you're going to get out of these patents, and you're going to have this technological revolution, and we'll be your partners. We'll add to that $18 trillion. So that's what Trump is doing. He said, we're going to grow out, we're going to reverse what has brought us down, and we're going to reverse it. And so that's what he's doing. Then let's look at what the other thing he's been telling us. We became the greatest nation in the world in 1871 when we had this centennial celebration and announced to the world that the youngest nation in the world was now the wealthiest nation in the world based on what? Tariffs on England. And that's exactly what he's doing. He's not gambling. He's just replaying the scenario that economically made us the greatest nation in the world in the first place. So what's he saying? Along that line, we only had, when we were founded, a simple sales tax. We didn't have the federal income tax. We didn't have the progressive taxes. We had a simple sales tax. So what's he saying? Based on the tariffs, we're going to go from the Internal Revenue Service to the External Revenue Service. And that means what? That means no more Fed. So now you can get a few dribs, a few pennies drip down to you if you follow what the globalists want to do. We're going to take their money and we're going to spread it out over 300 million Americans, and that's going to fix it. What he's saying is every year you're going to look at your tax results and find out, depending on what tax bracket you're in, you got 25, 30, 35% more in your pocket. And then what's the next thing he's going to do? The next thing he's doing is giving us all this new technology that is going to grow our economy as China is declining, as Russia is declining, as Iran is getting the foot on their neck. America is going to do what it did before. It's going to create the greatest technological revolution in the world and then share that technology with the world. So now what that means is he's creating a situation where once this war is over, there's not going to be the oil shortages that we have now. They're not going to be able to control the logistics system the way they do. The Strait of Hormuz is probably going to control less than 5% of the world's oil supply because nations all over the world are making different logistic arrangements. They're building pipelines, and they're saying we're never going to allow that to happen again. So oil goes down, and here's what you need to know about oil. They've kept us intentionally, with Iran being the proxy fed by England, to have the money to be able to have the proxies wars all over the place and to build all of their missiles and so forth and keep us in constant turmoil. Because what does that do? Well, it drives up oil prices, which basically makes the necessities of life more expensive, so that the people systematically say, I can't pay my medical bills. I can't pay my credit card bills, whatever. That's the crisis that they put us in through what they're doing. And it's all going to be reversed because Trump is going to put us on the very system that made us great in the first place. He's going to run our economy off of tariffs. He's going to reduce the taxes. He's going to share the technology which grows us. And America will not come out of this as the sole reserve currency of the world. It's going to be a basket, but we're still going to come out of this as the most powerful nation in the world, having reversed our trade situation, where now we have profitable trade happening. When we first went in to NAFTA under Carter and under Clinton, we were 200 years old, and all we had was a $600 billion national debt, not even $1 trillion. Now it's $39 trillion. That's all going to be reversed because now what we're doing is we're making money, lots of it, because what we're doing is we're letting the foreign countries take care of our cost and not taxing the American people to oblivion. Let me stop there. That was an awful long answer to one simple question. Back to you.
Well, let me thank you. Let me pedal back, and our audience knows this quote. I'm paraphrasing it, but from Margaret Thatcher, socialism works until you run out of other people's money, uh, and uh, and you cited some points in history. We have the C word, the communist word, being used quite a bit now. The president, of
Mhm.
course, made that drove that home on the July 4th events, the 3rd of July, as I
Mhm.
recall, recently in the address to the nation. Um, we are at war with a lot of different entities, China being one of them, because now it's official that they and other countries and domestic as well have stolen our elections and interfered with our
Mhm.
elections. And that, of course, is an act of war. So then you've got I'll call them the nutcases on the other side that are pretty boldly telling you we're going to run on a Democrat socialist platform, which really means a communist platform. So that's what's being served up before the world to take a look at. And I just always remember the president saying so many times way back when he was doing the rallies nonstop, we will never be a communist socialist nation. And so it's all coming to a head here now, and that takes me to I took some notes here. You unpack quite a bit. Some of the key things, of course, is are these patents, is the tariffs, is the eventually, in my opinion, the elimination of the federal income tax. That's on the docket to come at some point.
Mhm.
There'll be a complete restructure of the IRS tax system, uh, and thank goodness for that. And of course, the overhauling of the Federal Reserve is already well in motion. That leads me to oil
Mhm.
and interest rates. Have you comment on that real quick? Right now, unfortunately, we're not finished with the conflict and the restructuring of events as it is in the Straits of Hormuz. So we've got oil where we don't want it, but I believe eventually oil is probably going to settle down to a more respectable $40 or $50 an ounce. And with the Federal Reserve uh, no longer going to be in control of creating inflation, we'll have stable oil. And unfortunately, it seems that the Fed is holding rates right now. We need rates to come down. If oil comes down and rates go down and gold gets set at 20,000 and a floor price is put on silver, uh, that's a recipe for some real good economic opportunity. Any comments about, no one has a crystal but the conflict needs to come to a definitive end. We got to get oil down and we got to lower rates. What's your view about that?
Well, I just watched a cackle that Trump did with the newscasters just a couple of days ago, and they suggested that he didn't have a plan. And he says, I have a plan. I just can't share it with you. All these people in my cabinet know what my plan is. And then I did a show recently, and I always go back to biblical stuff and to history. And if you go back and you want to find out what's going to happen proactively in this war in Iran, the Bible tells you. It all goes all the way back to Abraham. It goes Ishmael and Isaac, and it goes to the orphan mentality that was created out of that, which created an angst between Islam and between Christianity. And God had passages that said, when this time comes, there'll be a time when when Iran will have power above and beyond what you would expect a country of that population and that size to have. Well, he didn't tell us what it was, but it has to do with the choking off of oil, the lifeblood of the country, right? So you take that trump card that they've been playing, extorting and holding oil and keeping the world in higher oil prices. Trump had it all planned. So I'm going to unravel a little bit of his plan that he's not sharing with the people. Before he ever started this war, he had it all mapped out. He knew exactly what was going to happen. So that's why he went in to Venezuela. Venezuela was to do three principal things: to expose the cartels so that we could basically obliterate them by declaring that they're terrorist organizations. And that has something to do with the border and closing the border, which he's pretty much done. And then the next thing that he was doing there is he was bringing forth the opportunity to expose the most important thing that's going to open the eyes of the people. When I died in 68, God said, when we're at the most critical point in American history, more danger and right now exists for America than in World War I or World War II or 9/11, because whoever wins this final battle is going to control the world for the next 100 or more years. And that's where we're at. So what was he doing there? He was basically taking Maduro alive, so that he's already disclosing a little bit about the election fraud, but the mother of it all is going to come out of Venezuela. And then he knew Japan has no oil. They don't have any oil. He knew that China imports 70% of their oil. He knew that the nations of the world were going to come against him and the politicians and get him to end this war prematurely unless he gave them an opportunity to get oil at a price that they could at least keep their factories going. So what did he do? He went down and he got the oil in Venezuela. Now what's he doing? He's surgically tearing Iran apart, but being careful not to so obliterate their their infrastructure that they cannot produce oil. So there are amazing things happening in Iran right now, and Donald Trump made provision for it all. He went in as more of the preparation for this, going way back, and he got the beginnings of the Abraham Accords. And then when this war happened, he knew that Iran was going to try to intimidate the oil-producing nations in the Middle East, and that they would send missiles at them. And so he provided them the equivalent of the Iron Dome that we have provided to Israel all these years. And with that, they're now in alignment with us, and our enemy's enemy is our friend. And what we're seeing is a whole geopolitical structural change in the Middle East, where what's going to happen is Trump is already sending us signals that says that we the requirement to get the things that we promised you depend on you becoming part of the Abraham Accords and bringing peace and acknowledging Israel. Several nations have, but the big one that he has to get in here is Saudi Arabia, and I believe that's going to happen. So what's happening in the Middle East that he had made all the provisions for? We gave them protection. That gives them an obligation to us, and we're now going to enter into the peace accords that's going to give peace to the Middle East, and that's going to bring financial stability to the world. And then Shell, 3 or 4 different oil companies are over in the Middle East, and they're negotiating deals. And I'm going to go to a slide here that I happen to have in my archive, and I'm going to pick this up at this point. People are talking about this reset, and they're thinking they're going to make, huge amounts. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying there will be a reset. I'm not going to tell you what the rate is. I'm not going to tell you the time. I'm not getting into that, but there will be a reset. And Trump has said every nation has to have a financial reset because we have to have parity because that's what keeps us from war. So let's go to an example where the people say, it'll never happen, it never happened. Well, it happened in Kuwait. And what did Kuwait do before they reset? Everything is planned years ahead of time. So what they did is they strengthened their banking system. Well, that's what Iran is doing right now. They had global agreements for trade and so forth, and that strengthened their income and their reserves. They boosted their oil, and so that's what all the Shell and all these oil companies are over there, and they're going to beef up the principal thing that is their economic basis, which oil, but they're doing much more. And economic transformation, they're going digital. By September, their goal is to be able to trade on the forex out of London, out of Hong Kong, and out of the U.S., out of Washington. And they're now negotiating just exactly what China did before they went ballistic and started growing. They hope that they're going to have an agreement signed with the World Trade Organization to be part of the World Trade Organization. So all the things that Kuwait did that allowed them to be viewed as being able to go on the forex and have their currencies revalued are happening in spades over in Iran. So it is coming down. It's going to happen, and they're now, in addition to that, they have 48 different agreements that are being negotiated right now that are going to diversify their economy, and they are going to not be dependent on oil like, say, Russia is, or so heavily dependent as China is. So they're bringing in investments on the energy grid, on technological infrastructure, high tech, on medical infrastructure, on global finance, and on heavy industry, basically manufacturing. And they're negotiating 48 contracts worth $60 billion. And then now the whole Middle East is saying, we want to put money in America because we see that America is going to be the salvation for the world. That's what's happening in the Middle East. Trump foresaw it all from before he ever started this war, and he made provision where all the nations would get the oil that they needed. And now coming out of this, here's what's happening. We've got new logistics corridors that are being built throughout the Middle East that are going to take the dependency on the Strait of Hormuz and literally wipe it out. And and what's going to happen? Iran is building their own pipeline, and they're going to bypass the Strait of Hormuz. It's happening with other nations in the Middle East. So when this is over, the biggest leverage card that Iran had was oil. We choke the straits, and the world bleeds. Trump basically modified that situation. And now when this war is over, and it will end, and the Bible says that they saw this coming and they would put a hook in Iran's mouth and turn them away, and they would lose this war. So that was predicted by the Bible before this ever started. And when we come out of this, they'll be lucky if 5% of the world's oil goes through the straits. And then we've got situations happening with OPEC where now we're coming into greater alignment with them, and we're going to have the production beefed up in Venezuela. We're going to beef up massively the production in Iran, and we're going to have more oil flowing than we've ever had, and we're not going to have it held and be able to drive prices up and price people out. So we're going to have an energy revolution. And then on top of that, he's going to release all these technologies. So let's sum it up what it means to us financially. It means that we're out from under the federal income tax. It means that we're out from under most of the progressive taxes that we're under. It means that the central bank goes away. It means when he introduces these new technologies, oil prices go down, and then he brings in patents that give us free energy. Most people don't recognize that the principal cost of everything you ever bought, every commodity item, is energy. So let's take the most complicated example I can give: an automobile. It's birthed in a strip mine where a huge crane digs up 10 tons of ore at one time, drops it into a big truck and pulls it away, run by diesel, goes to a smelt where it's run by coal, is refined, and then it goes onto ships and sent all over the world. And basically, if it's something to be manufactured, it's manufactured. The cars are manufactured in 120 different locations and shipped around the world. So what is the one cost that follows that logistics chain everywhere you go? Energy, 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 energy. And if he gives us over the next few years the free energy technology that we are going to have, that means that the cost of everything you'll buy going forward, not only won't you be paying those taxes, and not only will we have a wholly different economic system that's out from under fiat, but that's based on commodities that can't be so manipulated, but we will be in a situation where the cost of every consumable we buy will be 40, 50, 60% less than it is right now. And then when we go on a commodity-backed system, that means that the dollar that is now worth 3 or 4 cents will go back to prices that were pre-1971, and that is going to help you again. So he's bringing a 3-stage economic solution to the world. Compare that to the anemic lie that the socialist, Democrat, communists are saying. The whole solution is so simple: just tax the rich. That's what's coming. And he made provision and saw everything he needed to do before he went into this war, because his goal is to bring peace and prosperity to the world. He's negotiated eight agreements, and now let's jump and look at the geopolitical realignment that's liable to happen in the very near term. Now, Russia has made the same mistake that happened way, way back in history, where I'm going to forget the name of the nation. It's one of the European crown corporations. Anyway, they basically had most of their economy based on oil, and that was a mistake, and they lost their control of the world's reserve currency. And so Russia's primary source of income is its oil and natural gas, and now those drones are attacking their refineries, and Russia's in real economic trouble. And so I believe what I'm seeing from my Bible is that we're having this, and God has orchestrated it all. He's behind the scenes because he wants to bring peace and prosperity to the world, spiritual enlightenment. He wants to have us go into a period of absolute revival. And so to do that, communism worldwide has to fall. So Russia is in economic trouble. The people are stirring, and I think that we're going to see that communism in Russia is going to fall. The same thing is happening in China. The same thing is happening in Iran, where we have millions of people that are ready to stand up and to get peace and prosperity and to get freedom. And then you go to South America, and largely because of what the CIA and America did with its hegemony in the southern hemisphere, they're in poverty. But Trump is now stepping in and saying, no more Western hegemony. We're going to help you. So Argentina was near having a bond collapse. He stepped in and he bailed them out. Brazil is looking like it might have problems. He's talking about helping them. So he's going to allow everybody in our hemisphere to have fair, equitable trade agreements, to be able to build the infrastructure they need so they can bring their economies up. And he's going to protect the Western Hemisphere, America first. So what is coming out of this, what he's doing with the Abraham Accords, what he's doing in the Middle East, is he is going to be allowed, and now this is my prediction based on my in-depth analysis with lots and lots of facts. He's already announced that he's coming against NATO. He's pulled 8,000 troops out of Germany. So he's basically pulling those troops out and bringing them over to our hemisphere. And he's going to do a drawdown in the Middle East, where he's basically hinting that when Iran war is over, the alliance of Israel and the nations that are in the Abraham Accords with their military will be able to now take a more stable Middle East environment and provide their own military protection, so we can go and address who our real enemy is, which is China. So our fleet will be coming over to the Western Pacific, where they will be able to get into the theater if we ever have to go against China in some kind of military engagement. But I'm going to take it one step further. I think that as a result of what's been shown in this war, that we have given at least a hint of the advanced technology that we have. And I'm seeing events now. I'm reading into this. These are not formal announcements. But what I'm seeing is that I think China said, we really want Taiwan because we want those semiconductors. But if we can make some kind of a deal that works for both of us, we want a seat at the table when the financial reset happens. And so that's why they invited Trump to come over, said, bring a few of your biggest corporations. 18 big CEOs came. And I believe that what we're seeing a, a redo of the financial system that is existing right now, the Plasma Accords, which followed Bretton Woods, which was another adjustment of the economic system. Basically, I believe we're having a Plasma Accord too, where we're now saying we got our 18 largest corporations over there, and we want to do an economic deal that keeps us from having, at this point in time, going to war. Now, it doesn't mean we won't go to war with them later, but I think that their choice, their preference is that we negotiate a financial situation. We give a little, they give a little. We give on tariffs. We give on the access to some of the computer chips, and we avoid war. And everything that is happening that God wants, that I think Trump is orchestrating, is the fall of communism worldwide and a period of economic parity worldwide, and an ushering in a peace and prosperity and a technological revolution, the likes of which the world has never seen. So let me stop there, and you take me anywhere else you want to go.
Wow. You unpacked quite a bit there. Under the umbrella of a major systemic global reset, pretty much on every major front, is what's happening as the chessboard is realigned.
Mhm.
The fall of communism is music to my ears. I'd been talking about that many years ago and speculated we may see that in our lifetime. You just set the case that that is now very well in motion, and that is good news. Not without disruptions and hiccups and some dangers along the way, but
Right.
um, you also the pedaling back a bit to the some of the economic things you talked about. Um, I'll also yes, we will get tax relief. Um,
Mhm.
we'll have. I'm talking about the individual now. You know, our audience is, well, what about me at home? And we get all these big moves that are happening. How will it affect me? Ultimately, federal income tax relief, repatriation of stolen federal income tax from us, and some other
Nasara.
aspects of that. Yep. And
Mhm.
you've talked about free energy in these patents. That's coming our way, I believe, as well. And so
Mhm.
there's the help and relief, folks, that we all, many of us, desperately need. And but it takes time to get these things done, and that's what we're doing. We're still, as soon as the Fed starts to lower rates. I mean, I'll speak to some economists on our global financial reset show, perhaps. Maybe you can weigh in on it, but I'm wondering why. Now that we have Kevin Warsh in there, we haven't lowered rates. They're keeping them where they are. We need rates lower, and I haven't figured that out yet. Do you have any views on that? And again, I'll raise that on our
I
financial
I
show.
do. It's relating
Go ahead.
to the war. It's relating to oil. Oil drives the cost of everything.
Yes.
So as soon as this war
Hmm.
ends, then we're going to be able to go forward and have the currency resets in of the dong and the dinar. We're going to be able to lower the interest rates, which what Trump wants to do. So the lowering of the interest rates gives us a soft financial collapse. In other words, we don't have an actual default, but we do have to have a financial reset to take the money away from the global elite and put it in our hands. And then Trump does something that never been done, which is what I said before. He goes on a major growth factor for the United States with all these two technologies. And then now this takes us to a topic that I want to introduce that really is almost pure opinion, but based upon on data points that I have, but not very many people are talking about it. Remember, one of the things that I did was I was a real estate agent. I was a real estate broker, and eventually I had my own real estate firm. And I knew what happened in 9/11 because I worked in construction, and I knew that was a false flag event. Those towers didn't come down from the planes; they came down from thermite. So with that, I know the real estate market. And here's something that is going to shift the entire dynamic of the world for the last 250 years. The world has gone from agrarian society to going into the cities and becoming controlled by the global financial elite. It gives them the control systems that they need. That whole process is slowly beginning to reverse. And it all started, it went hyper with what happened in 9/11, what happened in 2000 with COVID. And your houses, for example, the average mean price of a house in 2000 was $200,000. Now it's 420, And they think, oh, my house is worth more. They don't understand the drawback from it. That means your property taxes have doubled. And for those people who had their houses paid for that are on fixed incomes like me, all of a sudden their property taxes went up and many of them are losing their homes. So now we need to go
Yes.
and look at the negative effect of what's coming with what they're doing there. Now let's look at the real estate. You go to China and their real estate market is totally, completely, and absolutely collapsed. Let's go to New York, let's go to Chicago, let's go to Los Angeles, go to San Francisco, all the big centers, and they all have these giant skyscrapers that had corporate headquarters in them that were manned with people, and and what you do when you have a piece of property like that, you don't buy it, you do a lease. Usually minimum is 10 years, and some of them are as long as 30 years. And they went in and gobbled up new leases when interest rates were basically almost zero during COVID. And now some of those leases are going to come due. And here's what's happened. We had a technological shift. You're in Thailand and I'm in the United States, and here we are doing a show and we are being productive. That happened now in all of those corporate high rises that used to have thousands of people in them. And what's happening now that's going to come into this economy, that's another factor, is those leases are coming due and they're not at 0% or 1% or 2%, they're 6 or 7%. And the occupancy on those properties is not at 70 or 80 or 90%, it's at 30 or 40%. And so what we're going to see is a near 100, this is going to shock people, a near 100% default in the entire commercial real estate market of the world. And it's already begun to happen. So with that and with the technology that we have, people are going to be able to leave and are leaving the big cities and going to small towns. And it's going to cause a complete societal shift where we're going to be able to have people living in places where it's much less expensive and developing community, because as we go through the reset that God is implementing in the world, we're going to find that technology is going to move the cheese, so to speak. And the young people who are out there who are looking for their careers are going to find that they're no longer going to be able to have a job, go get an education, and have a job, the same job for 30 years. Everything is changing. So, on top of that, what is going to happen is a metamorphosis that says that quantum computing is going to happen, blockchain is going to happen, AI is going to happen, robotics is going to happen, and there's going to be a huge shift where your vocational stability is going to be challenged. So we're going to have to go to some kind of guaranteed income, and that sounds bad, it looks bad, but we're going to be decentralizing at the same time. And so what it's going to do is change the whole essence of society in order to usher in the revival that God wants to bring, the spiritual awakening. So if you look at what that does to the corporations, they don't have to pay a pension, they don't have to pay medical, they don't have to pay health insurance, their cost goes down, they buy a computer, they buy a robot, and so now they're going to be able to give us just what they've done in the oil-rich nations. In the oil-rich nations, they buy you a car, they give you a stipend when you get married, they give you free health care. We're going to be able to do that in our society. It's not going to be communism, it's not going to be socialism, but they're going to have to make an adjustment. They're going to have to work to get the money that comes out of Nassar that's going to be coming to us. But basically, it's going to free society up where we're no longer controlled completely and utterly and absolutely by a global central government. We're going to go increasingly to more decentralization. And with that comes economic freedom and personal freedom, and comes the opportunity for people to pursue spiritual enlightenment. And that's going to pass down to the millennials and the Generation Zs. And here's what we need to know. We always go to our presidents who kind of tell us what we need to hear. Ronald Reagan said, we are never more than one generation away from losing our freedom. Because if we lose a generation of young people, that's our generation of leadership. So what's coming out of this is these children are now becoming disillusioned, and where 5 years ago communism was rampant in the colleges, now they're waking up and they're seeing that they've got a very bleak future unless they stand up and unless they take the reins. So I believe we're seeing a metamorphosis happen in the up and coming generation, and they are going to step into the role of leadership, and they're going to guide us through this. So with that, I'll shut up again and let you take me wherever you want to go. That was kind of not on our topic, but I felt it was worth bringing into the conversation.
Well, that is the main topic, and everything else falls underneath it. So I'm glad you did raise it, and you did a great job in really painting a picture of these gargantuan changes in this systemic global reset. And I want to comment as we sort of wind down our discussion. We're looking at you mentioned AI and robotics. Uh, I encourage our viewers to follow Elon Musk on that very subject because that alone, and you alluded to it, will also drive the cost of goods and services down to very, very low prices. We won't be living in a world of inflation. We're going to be living in a world of deflation, and because the cost to produce things that
Mhm.
we usually
Don't
have
forget
human
free
labor
energy.
to do.
Layer free energy on top of that.
Mhm. Yep, you've got the lowered cost of producing goods and services dramatically dropped down because of robots and AI, coupled with the high universal income, which you touched on, which Elon Musk is really beginning to
Mhm.
drive home. And the key word there is high universal income. And then you have the free energy, as you spoke about. We didn't touch on the massive transformation that I believe will take place over time in big pharma's world as frequency technologies, including med beds, hit the public.
Mhm.
These are just incredible changes that are taking place, and and it's overwhelming for a lot of folks, and understandably so. So programs like this special broadcast with Larry sort of weighs in a little bit more. And to that, it's just coming to me, to my producer, get a moment, if you will, please, and pull up Restore the Republic page on jmcbroadcasting.com's website. While we're waiting for that to materialize, we'll sort of set it up um, to to help de-overwhelm us, if I can use these words, choice of words. You can pull up the site, Restore the Republic. Thank you. I encourage our viewers to go to jmcbroadcasting.com, and up on the navigation bar, you click on Restore the Republic, and you'll see just a brief introduction of Larry there by me, and that picture of Larry there, the video. But what you're looking at there is the curriculum. Why don't you walk us through, Larry, and the reason, before I turn the airways over to you, Larry, to walk us through
Mhm.
what is in these presentations. And by the way, one a week is well produced, published here, strictly education, and very important. But what we're talking about here is there's so much going on, so many changes taking place. This will go on for some years to come. There'll be some unpleasant disruptions amidst all the great things that will be landing us on solid ground. These reports probably address that to some extent. Why don't you talk with us a little bit briefly about the Restore the Republic series here on the page that viewers are looking at? What can they expect,
Okay.
and what type of things have you been covering, and what will you cover soon?
I need to add something to the profile that you gave. So God said to me, you have to read the Bible, you have to read the Quran, cover to cover, which I've done, because when we got to this pinnacle moment in time, we would realize Iran was our mortal enemy. We would realize that the goal of Iran is to bring jihad, to bring in the 12th Imam, to control the entire world. Well, this is a topic I wasn't going to discuss, but it's something that's integral to this. People don't realize we had the Arab Spring to cause the immigration issue. 6+ million immigrants, Muslims, went from Syria over into Europe, and they brought their 4 wives, and they had all their kids, and they're out birthing, and now it's become a real crisis in Europe, and it's now happening to a degree here. And then what we don't know, even if we go into these Abraham Accords with the Arab nations, here's what we need to be recognizing. That goal to control the world, to dominate the world, is not going to go away. So we have to keep our eye on something very important. And then I'll go into what's in these shows. And that is that they are funding mosques all over Europe, all over the United States, and they're using them to radicalize Muslims around the world. But here's where God enters in, where it's so funny. Their plan was to take us over by outbirthing us. So these people who left as these refugees, they didn't go to any of the Arab nations in Africa or the Middle East. They went to Europe and they came to the United States. And in the United States and America, they're popping babies out right and left. But within where most of them still reside, they're now having a birth rate of about, on average, 1.5, not even replacement. And now Europe has woke up and they're kicking them out. We're trying to kick them out. And so we're going to send them back. And so the whole strategy, God showed me eventually, this is a war between Christianity and between Islam, and Islam is going to lose. And so they're being gutted, if you will. And we have some things we need to do legislatively in this country. We need, and they're talking about it. We need to say if you have dual citizenship, like AOC, for example, and Mandami, I believe, has dual citizenship, you can't hold political office because you can't serve two uh, two entities. And then they're saying coming out of Texas, for example, um, we're not going to allow Sharia law anywhere in the United States of America. So they try to come in, they try to become a majority voting bloc, and they try to take over the government. We need to be aware that what Europe is now doing is saying we're going to monitor every single dollar that comes into your mosque. And if we find one thing that's suspicious, we're going to shut your mosque down. So we need to know the kinetic opposition with the Arab nations may be going away, but they're not going to give up their dream of dominating the world. So we need to understand that. Now, to what's in this agenda. What I try to do, what God showed me, is I need to lay the foundation. It's all in my book. I need to take you through step by step by step how we have lost our government, how we've lost our sovereignty, and all the essential things that have to happen to get it back. So the first several shows I did were history shows that are taking you in deep dives down into the minutia of how we've systematically lost our government. I'm going to look for a specific slide here so I can be precise in what I want to say here. So let me see if I can find it. Here it is. So a lot of these topics are discussed. How do they get control? So history shows us that the first thing they do, let's take America. We fought the Revolutionary War, the Tea Party, and all that because they wanted to tax us, right? And we didn't want that to happen. So we didn't want to be under the Central Bank of England. So we won the war, but we went bankrupt, and that happens all over the world. And so they start wars, perpetual wars, wars to last forever. Bush said the 9/11 war in Iraq was going to be a generational war lasting decades. So then they bankrupt you, they drive you into a central bank, then they control the monetary system, then that gives them the money. Who controls the money controls the world. So then they control the spheres of influence, and then let's go on down. So now what we have to do is we have to have a geopolitical realignment across the entire world. Take that power, take that money back from them. Understand that the elections have been stolen. We have to, if you cannot have a sovereign nation unless you have sovereign currencies, sovereign borders, and sovereign elections. Without those three things, you have no sovereignty. And then the Bible tells us a nation cannot prosper, cannot stand if it's divided. And now we have people that hate us, that are coming from foreign countries and getting into our political system and trying to bring it down from within. So what God is going to orchestrate, what he told me in 68 when I died, he says, I will bring you out at the cleft of the rock at the moment of the maximum pressure that's coming against the world, to deliver in-depth messages to the people, to understand how we've been brought into slavery, so that the truth can open their eyes and the truth will set them free. And that truth, the most important piece of that truth, is the economic disclosure, the border disclosure, and the election disclosure, and the division disclosure. And then the last thing that people are, I think, absolutely asleep on is God is on our side. God has used America. And here's where the understanding of the border situation gets clarity if we can look at the Bible. So all of this is in those shows. So God said the cradle of civilization has been at war with itself forever. War after war after war after war. We Christian population has been at war with Islam for 1400 years. So he said, I have a plan. There's a nation that I have set aside that I am going to use to bring spirituality to the world. It turned out to be America. And what he said is, I'm going to bring these nations who have warred forever and put them over here halfway around the world, where they have an ocean to the east, an ocean to the west, and an ocean to the south, where they're not in all the chaos of the Middle East. And I'm going to bring these people together who hate one another. But here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to make them dependent upon one another. And that interdependency will create a wholly new governmental system where people will learn to live together in peace and prosperity. And we were doing a pretty good job of it for a while. That's going to come back together. And we're going to have the United States of America, and we're going to have the United Western Hemisphere, the United Americas. What Trump is doing is executing things that is going to take and make the people understand Canada is our enemy. They're still under the crown. We wouldn't have the border incursion we have if it wasn't for the fact that Mexico was our enemy. And we have caused all the southern hemisphere to be held in economic slavery. So Trump is going to change all of that. Is re-implementing the Monroe Doctrine. So all of that is the preparatory for the first several shows that I've done. Now I'm going into resets, all the various things that happen with the resets that are going to have economic changes coming, political changes coming, a complete geopolitical realignment of the world. So maybe I'll touch on the high level of what I see. America, with the implementation of the Monroe Doctrine, is coming together and getting more unity. And we're basically be stronger because he's bringing our military back home to protect us. So what's happening to the rest of the world? Russia is in real economic trouble. I think they're going to collapse, as I said. The same thing is happening in China. The same thing is happening in Iran. So now let's look at the rest of the world. So we're going to be pulling together and unifying the whole Western Hemisphere. And that I would reach over and say includes our real ally over in the Middle East, which is Australia. Now let's look at the Middle East. The Middle East is going to fare better than Russia and China and Iran because they're going to reach out and try to come into accord with the United States and invest their money in the United States. So they're going to not be, they understand that their oil is eventually going to run out, so they're diversifying their economy. So they're going to have some degree of growth. I don't think as much as the United States and India. And India, some people said it'll be the next China. It never will be the next China because there's 26 different dialects because they made a critical error when they started to grow. Instead of and focusing on manufacturing, they focused on what's the word I want? I'm trying to think of what it would be called on services industry, and that's not where the money's at. So India is growing, but now in terms of the reset, the number one country in the world that is benefiting more from the decline of Russia, of China, from the manufacturing leaving is Vietnam. They now have a 6.2 growth rate, higher than any other nation in the world. So that is going because of something called near shoring to to Vietnam and to other places in the Middle East. So as we go into the future and we start to look at the financial reset and the global reset, I'll be talking about after we go through the currency resets, and that's your seed, and then you can invest money in XRP and in gold and in silver. Then we're going to go look at this internationally around the world as this global financial reset happens. Where can you go to put your money? And you can go near shoring to the Asian nations around China that will be beneficiaries. Then you can go to Mexico because that represents a different kind of near shoring. If you are sitting next door and have the right kind of a trade agreement with America, you're on the door to the largest domestic market in the world. And then there's other things that are going to happen with minerals. And so as we go through this, I'll be breaking down and taking you on a financial journey to how, as the geopolitical situation changes, how your investment strategies change and how you can basically do what the people who really understand money do. Whenever there is, I just watched Rich Dad Poor Dad the other day, and here's what he said. You know that '08 financial collapse? I borrowed $37 million to the bank. They were anxious to give it to him because they knew that if I defaulted, they'd just take those houses. And I made more money during that collapse than at any other time in my life. So I'm going to give you instructions as to do what Rich Dad Poor Dad, as to do what you need to do in order to not be a victim from the financial collapse that has to come, but to be able to prosper from it. And you need knowledge to do that. So I'm going to guide you through that. And then later in this year, I'm getting ready to do two more things. I'm going to take my book. It's only been out about 9 months, but so much has happened. I'm going to do a new edition. I'm going to add a couple of chapters. And I'm going to bring it up to where everything is current. And then I'm hoping by then some of the investments I've made has panned out, and I'm going to spend a lot of money to promote that book. But here's what I'm also getting ready to do. It'll take a few months, but I've got a third book that God always has me write them in advance. It's done, and it is called Liberty Crusade, putting the power back in the Bible. So as we make this transition, as the geopolitical picture shifts, then we're going to go into that new economy where we have guaranteed income, and we're going to have the opportunity to move into the spiritual realms. So I'm going to go in and start to talk to you and transition over the course of the next several months into the psychological, sociological, ecological, and spiritual changes that are going to happen. And we're going to basically expose the fact that the Bible, contrary to what people think, has been used as a control mechanism. And God has given me everything you need to know to understand how to put the power back in the Bible, how to get the intermediary out of the Bible that the Catholic Church put in. The Catholic Church says you can't go directly to God, you have to go through the Pope. And we're going to find out as this unravels, this is the last part of my journey, that you can go directly to God, and I'm going to teach you how to do it. And so we're going to walk through this economic change, these political changes, these geopolitical changes into what God is really all about, which is birthing the greatest revival the world has ever seen, and the role that the United States will have to play in it. So that's what's there, and that's what's coming over the course of the next year.
Fantastic. Thank you, Larry. People have heard this before, perhaps some haven't, so I'll raise it. You referenced America being sort of the chosen nation to bring humanity together. And if
Mm-hmm.
you play with the letters in the word America and rearrange them, you can come up with I am race. I am, of course, being God, the creator, a race of God, America. Play with those letters,
Yeah.
and you have I am race. Kind of fun. Perhaps the New Yorkers didn't get the memo with who they elected as their mayor, but that's part of the script, and that'll play itself out. But in closing this broadcast, Larry, you've done some great research. You're continuing to do some great research. Again, to our viewers, Restore the Republic on the navigation bar at jmcbroadcasting.com to get each week these updates as Larry moves us through this journey together. And you see on the screen, Restoring the Republic, Larry Ballard's book, and update as he just stated. When they click on this, where do they buy the book? What are the options to pick up a copy of your book?
If they click on the QR code on the shows that I do, it'll take them to my website. You can buy the book on the website, but what's actually happening, it's taking you directly to Amazon where you can buy the book. You can buy my merchandise. You can buy the book just by going to my website, LarryBallard.com, and you click on that QR code and you can buy the book. And let me close by saying what God told me has to go in this book. So this book is to prepare us for the metamorphosis that's coming. And right now, here's what has to happen. We have been lied to, we've been controlled, we've been manipulated, and that truth has to come out. So God told me the truth will set the people free. So here's the fundamental thing that you get in this book that's so important is God showed me how to walk the people into understanding how a republic was taken, what a republic is, a government of the people, by the people, for the people, the responsibilities that are required for you to be a member of a republic. You have to be informed. You have to be willing to, you have to be moral. You have to be willing to vote your conscience, not to vote for handouts. And you have to know the Constitution and the framework of our government and the three levels of government that we have. And so here's what I'm trying to do in this book. It says I'm going to teach you from a historical and an economic and a spiritual level everything you need to know to do this, to do what Reagan said. We'll never more than one generation from losing if we don't raise up a population of young people to be the leaders. This book puts forth the following contention. If you are not informed, if you aren't prepared so that you can step into leadership in the banking industry, in the corporate industry, and most importantly, in the political industry, you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem, because we need an army of informed people that can step in and can help restore the republic. Everything you need to know to do that is in this book. That's why God had me write it.
Excellent. Well, thank you. Restoring the Republic. Visit LarryBallard.com And again, each week there's a new upload on the education curriculum. And Larry gave us a sneak preview of what's to come as we move through this journey and reset the world right and bring our human family together as one, as initially intended by our Creator. And we got some battles ahead of us, but we're on God's side, and God always wins. Thank you. God bless you, Larry Ballard, for the great work and sacrifice that you're doing at this time for all of us, and appreciate it. So LarryBallard.com.
You and
Thank you,
107
sir.
are two of the biggest voices out there. I'm small by comparison, but I do what I can do. You guys are right on the front line, and I'm really privileged to be doing shows with you.
Well, thank you, sir. And we're all doing our part, and so are our viewers, folks. Everybody, you've got to have skin in this game. I'll close out the show with this statement. I used to say it years ago when I did a lot of public speaking, as well as on the Clay Clark platform. When your children and grandchildren ask you, what were you doing when the global governance was being thrust down the throat of America and the world? What will your answer be? Freedom. It's up to us, as defined in Larry's book, as he just talked about. So get busy living or get busy dying. Be part of the solution or be part of the problem. Judgment Day comes to all of us. So God bless you. And thank you, Larry, for your valuable contributions. And we'll close this out with an important announcement. Eyes on Gitmo. Thank you all for being here. Stay safe, and may God be with you.
Join 107. Retired Lieutenant Colonel Matt Meck. Retired Brigadier General Blaine Holt. And other prominent military and intelligence guests for an ongoing monthly broadcast with John Michael Chambers as your host here on jmcbroadcasting.com. This panel will address, among other subjects of great importance, what's taking place with the military tribunals, sealed and unsealed indictments, and the avalanche of arrests to come. Will justice be served? This and much more will be addressed each month, including an analysis of current events, making sense of the events as they unfold, one psyop after another. Detecting truth from lies in the dying age of fake news and the rising age of AI and digital enhancements will help you to remain focused and grounded in these most challenging, difficult, and dangerous final battles. A new day is dawning as this golden age is at the doorstep. Remain informed, empowered, and connected by an elite team of military and intelligence experts, and together we will save America. Subscribe for free at jmcbroadcasting.com and be sure to join us monthly. Eyes on Gitmo, wartime analysis. Nothing can stop what's coming, and the best is yet to come. Where we go one, we go all here at jmcbroadcasting.com.